The city must pay. You can apologize to the dead. You can kneel on sacred ground. You can light candles and whisper prayers into the dark. But when something ancient is awakened, it does not negotiate like the living. This is the final chapter of Valmora Welcome to DreadLoop. Every nightmare returns. For 3 weeks after the ritual, the city felt stable. Not healed, not safe. Just stable. The fog thinned. Streetlights returned to normal color. People slept longer than before. The digging beneath the streets faded into distant memory. But something was wrong. Birds did not return to Valmora Hill. Animals refused to cross certain districts. And at exactly 2:03 a.m. every night, the ground vibrated softly, not enough to crack walls. Just enough to remind the city that something below was breathing. It began with children. 3 vanished from separate neighborhoods. No broken windows, no forced entry. Only one strange detail. Their bedrooms were filled with fine black soil, not dirt tracked from outside. Soil rising from the floorboards. Then adults began disappearing. Always those who had profited most from redevelopment. Contractors, city planners, bank executives. They vanished without ransom notes, without struggle. Security footage showed them walking calmly out of their homes at night, following something unseen, like sleepwalkers, toward Valmora Hill. And none returned. On the 21st night after the ritual, the seam reopened. Not wide, but enough. A thin black line split the ground at the center of the former excavation site. From it rose a low hum. Deep, resonant. Not chanting this time. Not whispers. Something more structured, like a single voice layered into thousands. Father Elian felt it instantly. The ritual sealed the door, he said, but we never destroyed what's behind it. Dr. Sato uncovered final fragments from buried archives. The ancient civilization that built the temple beneath Valmora Hill had not merely imprisoned spirits. They had imprisoned a collector, an entity that fed not on flesh, but on imbalance. When greed outweighed reverence, when ownership replaced stewardship. When the living forgot the dead, it awakened. The cemetery had acted as both shield and offering. The thousands buried above had contained the collector, feeding it slowly, keeping it dormant. But when the graves were destroyed, the collector was starved. And hungry things grow violent. One evening, clouds gathered unnaturally over Valmora, not storm clouds. Heavy, circular, rotating slowly. The skyline flickered. The luxury mole sank further into the ground with a grinding scream of steel. Concrete cracked open like dried clay, and the seam at the hill widened. Black mist rose again, but this time it did not form faces. It formed structure. Tall, thin, like ribs emerging from beneath the earth. Buildings nearby, tilted slightly inward, as if drawn. People in surrounding districts collapsed to their knees, not possessed, overwhelmed, as if gravity itself had shifted toward the hill. Across the city, those previously touched by spirits began moving again, eyes darkened. Shadows stretched longer than bodies. They walked toward the hill in silence, thousands of them. Not chaotic, ordered. The collector was gathering tribute. Elian understood the horror. The dead had been angry, but the collector was calculating. It had allowed the spirits to spread because chaos weakened the city. Now, it would take the city entirely. Elian gathered Sister Marin and Sato. There is only one way, he said. The city itself must renounce its foundation. Not the land, not the graves. The power structure. Valmora had to collapse its hierarchy willingly. The 5 oligarchs were mostly gone, but their companies still owned the land titles. Their corporations still controlled infrastructure. Their influence still defined the city's structure. As long as greed structured Valmora, the collector would feed. The solution was radical. Destroy the contracts. Dissolve the corporations. Publicly dismantle the power network that built over bones. Sacrifice wealth. Sacrifice control. Sacrifice dominance. The mayor hesitated, because this wasn't spiritual. It was economic suicide. But as the sky darkened and the possessed army marched, he agreed. Emergency broadcast. Citywide. All channels. The mayor stood pale and shaking. Behind him, Alian held a small wooden cross. The mayor announced, "All redevelopment rights over Valmora Hill are permanently revoked. All corporate claims dissolved. All land returned to communal trust. All oligarch assets within city limits seized and dismantled." Markets crashed instantly. Oligarch assets within city limits, power grids flickered. But something else happened. The hum from the hill faltered, just slightly, because imbalance was being corrected. The seam split wide open, and the collector emerged, not fully. It could not exist entirely in 3 dimensions. It was vast, a towering column of absence, with faint impressions of faces flickering across its surface like trapped echoes. Where it passed, light bent. Sound distorted, time felt slow. It did not roar. It observed. Then it moved toward the skyline. Buildings began leaning inward, as if drawn by invisible gravity. The possessed army stopped, waiting. The collector was deciding whether the sacrifice was enough. Alian stepped forward alone. Candles flickered violently around the hill. The wind rose in unnatural spirals. He shouted into the distortion. "The city chooses balance." The collector did not respond. The ground beneath Elian's feet cracked. He understood then. This was not about words. It was about loss. True loss. He turned to the mayor. "You must give up more." The mayor's face went white. "What? Power?" And then Elian did something no one expected. He knelt and began reciting the names of every grave destroyed. Not symbolically, not selectively, all of them. Sato projected archived names onto screens across the city. Citizens began repeating them, balconies filled with voices. Windows opened, people spoke names into the night. Thousands, then tens of thousands. The city became a choir of remembrance. The collector trembled. Its surface flickered, because remembrance restored weight to the dead, and weight anchored them back into earth. The possessed army began collapsing. Shadows shrinking, the hum fractured. The collector recoiled slightly, but it was not finished. As the names continued, the ground beneath the luxury mall gave way entirely. The building collapsed inward. VLN Libat smoothly. Like a structure, the oligarch estates cracked and folded into the earth. Skyscrapers financed by desecration lost power permanently. Valmora's skyline changed shape. The city physically shrank in places built on greed. And with each collapse, the collector diminished, because it fed on imbalance. And imbalance was being erased. Finally, the scene narrowed. The mist retreated, the towering void thinned until it resembled smoke. Then shadow. Then nothing. The crack sealed, not violently, but quietly, like a door finally shut. Morning came, the sky clear. No fog. No unnatural hum. The possessed lay unconscious but alive. Children returned home. Adults reappeared wandering streets, confused but breathing. Valmora was damaged, financially shattered, architecturally scarred, but spiritually quieter. Valmora Hill was no longer fenced, no longer guarded. It became a memorial. Not decorative, not commercial. Sacred. The city restructured itself without oligarch control. Public land trusts replaced private dominance. Construction near the hill was permanently banned. Not by fear, by collective agreement. Years later, Valmora thrives differently. Smaller, humbler, slower. At 2:03 a.m., the ground no longer vibrates, but sometimes, on very quiet nights, a faint breath can still be heard beneath the soil. Not angry, not hungry, just present. A reminder, this city PAD, but the earth remembers, and remembrance is the only seal that lasts. They thought the dead wanted revenge, but something deeper wanted balance, and when the city finally surrendered power, the hunger faded. Not because it was defeated, but because it was satisfied. Welcome to DreadLoop. Every nightmare returns.